Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Wim Lou. This is the Raptors Reaction Podcast presented by Betway for all your sports betting activities. Hit the QR code that you see here on the screen or follow the link that you see in the description to this episode. This is what's going to happen in this episode because this was, it was a very eventful night as the Raptors lose 155. That's right, 155 points to 126 against the Memphis Grizzlies. Grizzlies are obviously a potent offense. They've been dropping 140s, but even 155, that's a franchise record, both for Memphis in terms of the most points scored in the game, and it's a franchise record for the Raptors going the other way of most points they've ever allowed in one game. But of course, there was also all the theatrics. I mean, Darko Rajakovic completely lost it at the referees early in the fourth quarter, got himself ejected, stormed onto the court, charged the referees, had to be held back by his own players in Ochai Agbaji and Scottie Barnes, who, of course, if I were to ask you to guess who he lost it on behalf of, I think everyone here would know that it was for Scottie Barnes because Scottie had a play driving to the basket. Him and Jaren Jackson had been going at it a couple of times. And I thought actually Jaren Jackson, the former defensive player of the year, did a good job. I mean, there was contact, but at the same time, he was physical, stood straight up. Obviously, Scottie didn't, like the no call, and he missed a shot at the rim. And yeah, there was a possession that happened a little bit after that as well. Whatever. It was like one of the Grizzlies' 50 buckets of the game where I think Scottie Pippen Jr. took RJ to the rack and scored it. But at that point, I mean, Darko had already stormed onto the court and made his mind up to get ejected, and it was a very demonstrative effort. I wouldn't even say it came out of nowhere because I obviously frustration will build up. Like the Raptors obviously have lost 9 straight. The Raptors tonight were playing, defensively. It just wasn't there. Like I know. Actually, I'll talk about it in a bit, but obviously you give up 155 points. There's frustration. Obviously, Scottie's frustrated. He wanted the call. Darko's obviously going to jump to the defense of Scottie. The other very notable Darko Rajakovic NBA moment as a head coach of the Raptors was obviously last year when they went out to LA and he gave the infamous speech of, he got ejected in that one as well. But then he talked all about, Scottie Barnes is going to be the face of the league. He's going to be an all-star. He demands more respect. And he gave that legendary press conference in LA. Actually, my only thing is I just hope that there were some Raptors reporters on this trip to Memphis because I could easily see in terms of actual reporters going on this trip. I mean, obviously Savannah Hamilton will be there. She was on the broadcast. That's the friend of the program, Savannah. But I do wonder if like a 1-game road trip to Memphis, how many beat reporters also made the trip? Because again, I just want a lot of reporters in that room asking Darko about that moment. Probably some Grizzlies reporters will be there too, considering this was obviously in Memphis. But wow, like that was just that was just one of many moments in this game where the Raptors again gave up 155 points to Memphis. And I think you have to start with the defense in this one. I think first off, like, there's a couple of things. Number one, like, you can always say that this season was about tanking. This season was about rebuilding. The results don't matter, whatever. My point with that was always just if we could apply that universally across the board, there's no point in even watching. There's no point in analyzing. And honestly, there's no joy to be had with like, oh, let's like celebrate the small wins, right? Like, I think realistically, you have to still analyze the game that's being played, the game that you end up watching, the game that you end up following. There has to be at least some stakes to it. Again, like maybe wins and losses aren't the most important thing, but again, like what about standards? Or do standards matter, right? And look, obviously the 2024 calendar year for the Raptors, between what happened at the start of, I guess in January with the trades happening and all the sort of tragedies that have hit the team, all the injuries that have happened. You get to this point now where obviously like. I would hazard a guess that the 2024 calendar year is like the least like successful year in Raptors history in terms of just like when you look at wins and losses over the course of the season. Maybe I'll try to like actually bring that research to the next episode. This is obviously live after the podcast, or after the game ended, but it's been a tough year, right? And so again, frustrations mount and everything like that. But I still do want to actually look at the games and see what happens. I can't just like ignore everything and then just say it was tanking. It was tanking. This is not tanking. Darko's not losing his mind if it's just tanking and everything's going according to plan. Like, this is a team that's like actively looking for an identity, trying to establish themselves. And a lot of it is just not like hitting, at least right away. I think for me, defensively, offensively, like the Raptors clearly have something. They move the ball well. They have good off ball movement. You know, this game obviously tonight was obviously very open. Again, if you're scoring 155, chances are you're probably not defending nearly as hard as you want to necessarily be, because you can just score on the other end. So the game kind of naturally relaxes itself. But still, ultimately, Raptors have like, I like the way the Raptors look, at least visually, on offense, right? Defensively, even coming into the year, the goal was we need to get more serious on defense. I've told the story a few times. It's not even a story. It's just I was at Summer League, talking to Darko, and one of the things he was saying was just like, you know what, we got the offense really, we spent a lot of time on offense last year. This time we really got to lock in and defend. We really got to lock in and defend. And when you think back to Summer League, when you think back to training camp, when you think back to preseason, start of the season, the talk was all defense. And of course, like, injuries hit the team right away, right? How are you going to really play defense without personnel? Like, let's be honest. We started Kelly Olynyk at center tonight. You could talk about defense all you want, but like realistically, he's got a bad back. He's 34 years old, and he's going up against Zach Edey. Like, that's obviously going to be a mismatch, and there's obviously going to be things that sort of factor into this. And then you throw in the young. The Raptors have a million excuses. You can look for all of them, but again, over the bulk of the thing, like I'm not looking at game to game. But over the bulk of the season, there is no improvement defensively, right? Like, I would say in this game, and the way this game started, you knew obviously Memphis was going to get off to a hot start. Darko had to call the first 2 timeouts. He was already pretty pissed just on that alone, but he still kept it in a little bit. Called the first 2 timeouts to sort of get the Raptors playing, just at least locked in a little bit. To his credit, the Raptors did give him a response the first half. They closed the game. They tied it. After being down big, in the first half, they played a little bit of defense. And I think for me, it was like I was waiting on not necessarily, who's going to do something offensively to match what Memphis does, because that's honestly a little bit unrealistic. Who's going to do something defensively in terms of actually make defensive plays? And if I look back on the notes, you just even think back, if I even ask you to think back to the game, it was just Davion Mitchell, really. Like, it was basically just Davion Mitchell. Davion, forced 2 moving screens. He's pretty good at getting tight to the guard and, fighting around the screen and taking the contact, maybe even selling the contact a little bit. Basically similar to like a Lou Dort style. Forced 2 moving screens. He had the very memorable play, which again was another weird moment in this game where at the end of the first half, towards the end there, he had lost his shoe mid-possession. John Morant went over and threw the shoe into the crowd. All right, John Morant was like that Iraqi reporter against George W. Bush. All right, took the shoe, threw it into the I think he threw it at a ref too. It was actually pretty funny. But she chucked the shoe away, and so Davion had to play the next like minute without a shoe, and they tried to go 1-on-1 against him with Desmond Bane, who obviously, the nickname is Downhill Des. Like, he's a guy who obviously, he can be very skillful offensively. And Davion actually did a great job with only one shoe guarding Davion Mitchell, or guarding Desmond Bane. But that's kind of it. Like, this team, the amount of times they get back cut, the amount of times that, they don't fight for the offensive rebound, the amount of times that they're not matched up, not even just like matchup for matchup, you know what I mean? Like, not even matched up, just like even getting back with numbers in transition. These are things that just play them over and over again. And I hear it already. People are like, we don't want to hear this. We this season is about tanking and they're young and, why do we have to focus on this? You can't just build off of nothing. Like, even after the end of this year, when the Raptors finish with like probably somewhere between 10 and 20 wins, and they're like, okay, you know what? We're gonna get a high pick. We're gonna draft a player and bring him in. That standard still has to come. Like, newsflash, like 80% of this roster is going to be here like next year as well, especially the young guys playing right now that you see making these mistakes. They're going to happen next year as well. And the standard has to be set somewhere. Like, you could say that like their team is young. Again, you can give them a million excuses, but what's the excuse for getting back cut? 2 guys coming around, they split off of each other. There's no communication. Someone goes wide open to the basket. Okay, maybe, again, like, this game is fast, right? Like, Memphis has like 100+ shots. So like, I can expect like, fine, you lose a guy, 2 or 3 times. That that's just it's human nature to sort of like to have some mistakes. But like how like we saw like 8 or 9 back cuts right to the basket, or like transition plays where they're getting wide open looks, odd number rushes. Like it doesn't ever feel like the Raptors have a defensive presence. Again, like Davion stands out in that sense because he's the only guy who comes in and like fights through screens and stays super attached and makes a great effort on that front. But like that's one guy, and there has to be a team effort across the board. And yeah, of course, like not having Jakob Poeltl, the backbone of this team, in terms of what he does, especially in this matchup against Memphis with Zach Edey, that's gonna hurt. But at the same time, the Raptors, still have other guys. Like what happened to next man up, right? Like again, one of the things that you really enjoyed in terms of just following us, the history of the Raptors is 2020, the year after the Raptors defended the championship. That year they had injuries, like literally they had injury to injury to injury to injury all throughout the entire course of the regular season. And first off, that was the ultimate next man up season because Kawhi literally left in free agency after the championship, right? And of course Danny Green leaves, so that's 2 starters. So next man up already. And then like Pascal, injures his calf at some point, you know what I mean? And Fred misses some time, and Kyle misses some time, and Norm and OG, these guys all miss time. Serge, Mark, and it was always next man up. It was always like, oh man, like Rondé's gonna step up, and he's gonna give you some pretty good effort, or like Stanley Johnson will step up. He actually hit a game winner for the Raptors, which is kind of incredible. You know what I mean? Like they just would have other guys step up. Terrence Davis that year would step up. Like Matt Thomas had some moments. It was crazy, and that's how you sort of like, you look at a team like Orlando, and I pointed out Orlando a couple of times. Like they've been able to sort of do that. I think for the Raptors, like every time we have an injury, we point to it as an excuse. But there's got to be a personal responsibility when it comes to sort of getting back cut and stuff. And I know the focus of the game was probably be like, well, it's just Memphis. The Raptors, obviously, like I'm not expecting necessarily. Like, honestly, a good defensive effort for the Raptors against Memphis might have been, like, holding them to 130, not, 155. That's still a big difference, though. Like, it has to be at least at some point a wake-up call that, like, this team has given up 155 points. No matter what the scheme and who was available and all that kind of stuff, like, that's just tough, man. That's just tough. Like, you have to kind of look in the mirror some of those moments. Like, when you look at the Raptors all-time, right, most points allowed, in terms of the most points they've allowed in a game, the top 5 moments, right, in franchise history. Previous to this was 152. That was against the LA Clippers. That was on the road. That happened in 1998. Maybe actually in the second half of the show, we'll actually look at that roster and just have a little bit of fun with like who those players were, because I was certainly not a Raptor fan in 1998. But past that, 146, then 2009. And then it's 145 in a loss to the Knicks that happened earlier this year, March 27th, and also 145 they allowed to Utah in January of this year. So 3 of the most points allowed in a games in Raptors franchise history have happened in the last calendar year. And again, I know that like this is like a rebuilding phase, a tanky phase, but like the lows can't be this low. Like it just can't be. The standard has to be drawn no matter what they're doing. And the back cuts and the transition, the fact that they just get ragdolled defensively, and that's not, by the way, it's not just on the coaching. It's also on the players. Like it's always on the players, but it's also on the front office too, because like, look at this time. How many centers have we truly had, right? Okay, Yaka's been injured for a lot of 2024, which has been unlikely because he's been a healthy player, generally speaking, in his career. That doesn't mean you don't have a backup center, and that doesn't mean that you have to start Kelly Olynyk at backup center or at the starting center. There's just a lot that goes into this, man. I don't think, again, like it doesn't matter right now because the Raptors are, again, the losses are going to help their effort, in terms of getting new talent on this team. The Raptors clearly need to find a way to get more talent on this team. But like, I mean, what hurts me too is just like, so Darko does all that. He gets himself ejected, chases down the referee, has his pop at the ref, goes back 2-3 times. His players kind of hold him back. Fine. Okay. You know what? I respect that. Like he's fighting for his guys. He's going to try to back up Scottie. He's, this whole franchise is devoted to Scottie, like becoming the best version of himself. So I like that he was willing to do that, and he was able to jump in and whatever. Is there a response? And that's the thing. Raptors were down 24 at that moment, and there was no response. The lead quickly went back to 30 plus. with like wide open threes, wide open, like guys not, boxing out. There was not like, okay, like that fired up the team. Sometimes you get ejected because to like you want to get a response out of your team. I don't think this was necessarily that, but I also just it doesn't look great when it's like, all right, we just saw our coach do all this for us, and we're gonna keep doing the same thing. Like it's like I don't know, man. Again, it's a one off, but also at the same time, I'm I'm curious to see how this is kind of all going. Like, you know, yeah. I guess we knew what it was coming into the year. I guess we didn't know the part we didn't know is that they would be so banged up. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Trust me, this is it's against my nature, honestly, to come on here and be like, here are the positives after the Raptors give up 155. Like you give up 155, man. Yeah, I mean, I think, in terms of what got this game started, I think Memphis obviously got off to a huge start. And again, Darko had to call the first 2 timeouts. A lot of that was on Kelly for sort of playing as the starting center. Like, I just think it's like physically beyond him, maybe at this moment, maybe in general. I don't want to call him like, washed or anything, but at the same time, look at what we've seen since, he's been acquired. First off, last year, he played a lot of starting center for the Raptors. The Raptors had like the worst defense in the league post All-Star when he was starting at center, right? We also know the long history is that like he is just not a defensively strong center, never really has been over the course of his career. Of course, he does a lot for you offensively, and tonight he actually got 14 points and knocked down back-to-back threes at one point. Those things were fine. He was only a -8, which relative to the rest of the roster was actually pretty good. It also just means he played the least minutes out of the starters. But physically, when you watch some of these matchups, like, okay, Zach Edey overwhelming him at times. Like, I mean, that's gonna happen. Like, Kelly's like 6'6". He's like 6'10". He's not like he's like 6'10", 6'11", right? But like, obviously Zach is like so much bigger, so much stronger. He's obviously young as well. He's like 15 years younger than Kelly, or probably 12, 13 years younger than Kelly. Like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm not too pressed about that. But it's the fact that like rebounding and making contests at the rim and helping at the basket, like all like non-negotiable things a center needs to do, or switching even at the minimum. He's just not really able to service those things right now. And whether you want to say it's the bad back, whether you want to say it's the age, the history. I mean, even when Canada played in the Olympics this last summer, he didn't get any run at all, right? Like they played Trey Lyles over him. And I just don't think that like defensively the Raptors were well equipped on that front. The parts that do bother me, though, because again, like whatever, Kelly's not physically ready to go play starting center defense. That's not a breaking headline. But RJ and Grady, the thing is, like, these guys are going to be here for the Raptors for a long time, right? And to see them continuously get back cut, to get beat one-on-one, to be unable to, I mean, not even just like play defense and lock in, but like not even necessarily to have a presence about them sometimes, like Grady only picked up 3 fouls. RJ picked up like 2 fouls. Like, okay, you know what? Sometimes you get beat on a lot of, you're sort of like lost in the shuffle a little bit. At least like, what I mean? Like play a little bit more physical. Like just like even grab a guy. Like I don't even mind that. I really don't even mind that. There's a play that Jacoby Walter, who wasn't available today, but when the Raptors lost to the Knicks before Christmas. There was a play where the Raptors are already fouled Karl-Anthony Towns, so they already got beat defensively. But that play, Jacoby Walter jumps up there and he like brings Cat down with 2 hands and makes sure that it was an and one. How many and ones did the Grizzlies have today? Right, like 6 or 7. Like there's so many of those moments where I just feel like the Raptors are not competing to the full extent of it. Even Scottie, who I think like was asked to do a lot today, right? And I thought that there were moments where he looked really good. I thought he had a strong stretch at the end of the first quarter, start the second quarter. Defensively, in terms of anybody as a plus in the starting lineup, he probably was the closest to that. But it also took a lot out of him. Like they had to play him at small ball center for the second unit, for him leading the second unit. And then, of course, like, you're contending with like the size of Memphis. Like that's obviously going to take a lot out of you. But also at the same time, it's just like, that's just kind of what it is. You know what I mean? Like, especially in January, or especially in late December, when your team's down like this, like every team's got a couple injuries. Like especially when you're the franchise player and you get paid like that, like you kind of have to step up and sort of like do everything else that the game requires. I actually think Scottie played a fine game. Ultimately, 26 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists. He made a lot of good decisions offensively. Honestly, him playing small ball center always sort of like artificially puts him closer to the basket because of the fact that, when he's playing point, he can sometimes really get into this pattern where he's not driving, he's not getting downhill, he's not really a pick and roll player either, in that sort of sense. And obviously tonight you don't even have Jakob, who's your primary center. Again, whatever you throw whatever reason excuse you want to put out there, but he's not necessarily getting downhill, and he's mostly sort of hanging on the perimeter as a point guard does. But when he plays small ball center and he's sort of like forced to be the screener and getting deep post position, and he's like scoring over top of like, you're just playing closer to the basket. Like, it almost always in the course of his career so far to date, 4 seasons and counting, is the fact that he's been effective in that sort of small ball center role. That doesn't mean I want to see him play that all the time. I think especially it'll get him more banged up over the course of the year in terms of if he's fatigued in a game like this. Imagine playing like a month of games like this, right? Of course, we've seen what Scottie at center looks like. We've also seen a lot of that over the course of his career before obviously Jakob joined the team. But yeah, I mean, I obviously I like it as a look in certain moments, but a lot of times I don't like it. I think what the Raptors tried to do today was play 5 out. That's pretty clear. They played 5 out the whole game, and they tried to keep the paint clear, and that allowed guys like RJ to get to the basket. That allowed Scottie to get to the basket. Even Grady a couple times going to the hoop. But defensively, like, again, the question comes back to defense. Okay, fine. The Raptors have made themselves, better offensively. It's not ISO ball. It's not just like Fred and Pascal have it, and then Scottie has it, and Gary has it, and it's all one-on-one type of play, or just simple pick and roll. Fine, but like defensively, like is a viable. And honestly, tonight, like there was just too much that went wrong. And of course, like by the end, when you don't even have your head coach, when the game is so far out of hand, you can hear the Grizzlies. First off, when Darko got ejected, obviously Darko was an assistant with Memphis for 3 years before the Raptors hired him to take over the Toronto's project in the last 2 years. But regardless, they're familiar with him. Like, he's coached guys like Ja. He's coached guys like Desmond Bane and Brandon Clark and these other guys who have been on Memphis for the last like 3-4 years. You can actually see them like literally laughing about the incident as he's getting ejected, and they're kind of like discussing and confused about it. And then, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, man. This is tough. I mean, we knew it was going to be a tough one. Like, I was not expecting this to be a win in any fashion, but at the same time, you give up 155. At the end, you don't even have your coach. Like, you throw in the lineup that you had out there. I've been really, I want to see more out of AJ Lawson. I know the Raptors added him. And there hasn't even been much discussion about it. But the Raptors did add him on a 2-way contract. That brings 4 Canadians now to the Raptors roster. I like what I'm seeing from AJ so far. In the NBA, obviously it's pretty limited doses. He played sparingly for Dallas over the years. In Dallas, obviously, has just too many players, and I mean, again, they got so much talent. Like whatever, they can't keep on to everybody, but. He actually looks like a decent player though. Like you've seen some of the G League numbers. Like he's put up multiple 30-point games. He had a 37-point game, I think, maybe against Raptors 905, like earlier this year playing against Toronto. That almost certainly helps your case in terms of getting signed. But like, I like that he got some run and get a chance to sort of look at who he is. But I mean, like at the end, Ulrich Shamshay, Garrett Temple, Jamison Battle, Jonathan Mobo out there. It's just like, man, this is just it's just tough. I mean, it's really tough to sort of see the state of affairs. And as much as I would like to come on here and sort of like highlight the positives, and there were positives. I like the way RJ attacked. He only came 1 rebound shy of a triple double. I feel like that almost always gets overlooked. Also, like, can the Raptors please push RJ at any point for All-Star? I know the organization has like pretty clear like tiers in terms of like it's a strategy. Like before every year before All-Star voting comes on, because teams can't just spam. Like they literally have like a cap as to like how many social media posts like a team can put out, whatever, right, for All-Stars. So, but like the team itself has to put out like an actual strategy of like who we're gonna push for All-Star, and ultimately like based on the Raptors roster. I don't think that like any of these guys are getting voted in All-Star wise, but it is a good sense of like who's the most popular, and it helps like the players and their agencies sort of like put together like this is the impact, and this is how many people voted, whatever. But this is like, anyway, my point is like every year there is a concerted team strategy for like who they're going to push for All-Star. And we've seen years where like, man, I've seen like Gary Trent Jr. vote Gary for the All-Star game, vote OG for the All-Star game. Meanwhile, Fred and Pascal are also getting voted and pushed, and Scottie was getting pushed. It was just like, I've seen years where like 4 guys get pushed for All-Star, is my point. And like this year, it's only basically been Scottie. I mean, of course, I'm not expecting them to push anyone for All-Star when they give up 155 and their head coach, blows up. But like, yeah, I mean, still, I feel like RJ's efforts just kind of like are pretty consistent. He's been like really good. I thought in terms of when the Raptors had their only good stretches, they had like a 24-10 run at one point. That was started by RJ going to the basket, going strong to the hoop, collapsing the defense, kicking out the guys, a really tough reverse finish and one at the end of the first quarter there as well. Nice, inbound play by the team to sort of get him downhill, and a great finish for him to finish through 3 guys. Yeah, just show him a little bit of love as well. But I mean, damn, it is what it is, man. I mean, you got like, the team is actively posting on Twitter, full-time cowboy Bruce Brown, and a picture of him in a cowboy fit. And of course, the intention is just to show off his fit. Obviously, a very unique fit. It's kind of what he's known for in the league. But it's like, damn, like if you already know that there's a whole discussion around where's Bruce Brown, where's his availability, what's going on in terms of the ramp up that's sort of been ramped up for the last like month plus now. And of course he's still not obviously suited. It's just like, maybe just don't highlight or even use the full caption of full-time cowboy. Like, what does that insinuate? But yeah, anyway, whatever. I mean, if we're talking Raptors social, then certainly that's not the main focus here tonight. I'm very curious to see sort of what you thought about the game, what your thoughts are on the Raptors organization in general at this moment. Obviously, the odds keep getting better and better in terms of, landing a top pick. I think the Raptors should safely land a top pick in the upcoming draft. And, of course, that will bring new hope and hopefully, even new direction. But, again, like, I can't stress this enough. Like, the rest of the guys also have personal responsibility. We can't just kick personal responsibility for, like, the last 2 years completely to the curb just to add, like, more talent to the draft. Like, it's super important to add talent to the draft. Like, we're already seeing it right now with, like, Jacoby didn't play today. He's been ill. It's been a big illness going around the NBA, so hopefully he's okay. We obviously saw RJ sort of come down with it. But like, the boost that he's given us, the boost that Jamal Shedd's given us, Jonathan Mobo had a really tough one this tonight. He really struggles to finish at the basket. He throws up, outside of two-handed dunks, like it really is like a struggle for him to sort of pick his finish and actually like, it just, I don't even know. I got to watch more to see if it's a touch thing or if it's just like he's on a bad run. But, he really, really struggled to finish tonight. Couldn't really get anything going at all in a game that was wide open too. But like, still, like, obviously you need to add talent through the draft, but like personal responsibility got to kick in at some point, man. 155 points, coach gets ejected. You kind of have, these are the games you got to look in the mirror a little bit. So we are going to take your questions on the other side of this break. First, we're going to hear from some of our beloved sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to take your questions. So I'm looking forward to
Hey, man.
Hey, buddy.
Just recently hit the big 4-0. What about you, bro?
A little more recently 4-0, but we are both in the 40 club.
Let me tell you, man, being an adult really comes with its share of challenges.
Definitely. I think both you and I are homeowners, and I think we're both also dealing with mortgages in life.
Yeah, man. Mortgage rates, choosing the right terms, dealing with paperwork. It can be really overwhelming,
I still don't know how that works.
Well, listen. That's where our friends at Dominion Lending Centers come in, man. They make the whole process simple and stress-free. Whether you're renewing your mortgage, hunting for the best rates, or if you just need advice, they're here to help, bro.
You know what? I am looking for that advice, and I think that's why I'm going to visit www.dominionlending.ca.
Yeah, man. www.dominionlending.ca. Take the guesswork out of your mortgage and step into financial confidence with our friends at Dominion Lending by our side.
We want to take a quick break in the podcast to let you know about a really exciting event that's coming in the new year. Our friends at Bell are bringing back Bell Gaming Night in 2025 on January 2nd at Scotiabank Arena, and all of Hello Welcome's podcast listeners are invited. Whether you're a casual gamer or a hardcore pro, there's something for everyone at Bell Gaming Night. Not only will you be able to play and watch with your friends, but you can do so right on the Scotiabank Arena court. Also, if you think you got game, this is your chance to compete at tournaments. or even if you're not playing, there's lots of giveaways and prizes to be won. So come check out Bell Gaming Night on January 2nd from 3 to 10 p.m. Tickets are only $12, and proceeds will go to the MLSE Foundation in support of youth and mental health. However, as a special gift to all Hello Welcome podcast listeners, you can use the link below to get free tickets to the Bell Gaming Night. So make sure you follow that link that you see here on the screen or the link in the description to the episode. We'll see you there on January 2nd, and thanks to Bell, being a Raptor fan just got better. There you go. I'm actually really excited to check out the Bell Gaming Night. We are actually going to be there ourselves as well. It's January 2nd. Free tickets. Again, follow the link to the podcast here. We'll leave it in the description. But yeah, we'll see you all there. It's actually really cool. You got a chance to be on the Raptors court. You got a chance to, again, like, engage, especially if you're a gamer. I mean, there's tournaments going on. There's a lot of giveaways. I know a lot of people watch gaming as well. So it'll just be a really cool event. So January 2nd, and we got free tickets through our link. Just come back to the pod after it's uploaded, and it's going to be right there in the description. Anyway, it is now time to take your questions, and it is time for the Tangerine fan inbox. I gotta let you know, Tangerine obviously is the official bank of Hello Welcome. It's, of course, the official bank of the Toronto Raptors, foundational partner of WNBA Canada and NBA Canada, and of course, they're not just fans of basketball, they're fans of basketball. If you are here watching and trying to figure out during the holidays what happened with the Raptors giving up 155 points, that means you're a true fan. That's a true fan. And honestly, there's really no doubt in your commitment. Fans like you are at the heart of what makes this game great. So for the Raptors' 30th season, Tangerines turn the spotlight from the court to the stands, celebrating the way Raptor fans support their team, because this is how we fan. To learn more, visit tangerine.ca/basketball. Okay, Alex, what do we have for the question? What are the streets saying, man? First question from Steve. If you had to define an identity for this team right now, what would it be? Losing? Just losing. I know that they fight hard. I know that the broadcast notes it all the time. I'm not expecting a lot of wins. But right now they just are not able to compete and get through and get a win. And of course, the Raptors obviously on a 9-game losing streak. And you might say maybe big picture that this is good for the team, but you can see with the way that these players are devastated, or that the coaching obviously losing their mind here in this game, it has a human toll on them as well. And right now I don't really know what else to say. On a positive front, I would say that they still play unselfish, they still move the ball, but I mean, if you watch other games other than the Raptors, that's not a unique trait to Toronto. It's not like the Raptors move the ball so well that they're head and shoulders above the team. I know their assist numbers are high, whatever, but sometimes your assist numbers are high because you don't really have a lot of one-on-one scoring, right? And so, it's a bit of column A and column B. But right now, unfortunately, the identity team is losing. So, next question. Rodell asks, question, Raptors tanking and viewership going down. Are you afraid of younger generation losing faith in basketball? Wow. I mean, I don't think the younger generation's losing faith in basketball or losing interest in basketball. I think maybe my concern is that if the team is bad for an extended period of time, are people just going to look elsewhere for basketball? Because interest in basketball, especially on social media, is always super high. And we know, obviously, the younger generations, participation in social media is super high, right? My point is basketball is always going to be relevant. It just is. Basketball is super, super relevant, especially in North America and even globally as well. But I think maybe for locally, I remember in the dark years of being a Raptor fan, I would say probably that Chris Bosh era, between Chris Bosh to before Kyle and DeMar, it was every Raptor fan had to have a backup team, usually in the Western Conference, that they could support, because you were never seeing playoffs in Toronto, and the team was obviously a lot of nights just not particularly watchable, and so you would flick on and watch another team. So I know a lot of for my era, it was your backup team was Phoenix, your backup team to see this, Steve Nash, and he's Canadian obviously, and obviously that Suns team obviously very memorable, 7 seconds or less. For me, obviously, I also watched a lot of Houston because Yao Ming was there and I'm Chinese, so those teams are also really competitive as well. Him, Tracy McGrady, man, we talking Luther Head, we talking Aaron Brooks, we talking Chuck Hayes, who became a Raptor down the line, Kyle Lowry, obviously, with that team, Louis Skoloffs. Actually, the Raptors had a lot of former Rockets from that team. But yeah, like you kind of have to have a backup team. Like we're reaching that point where it's like a lot of fans are probably going to be like, yeah, I mean, like I'm from Toronto, so I'll watch a Raptor game. If I were to go to a game, I'd probably go to the Raptor game because that's the one closest here. But like you see it with the Raptors now, like when OKC comes to town, the amount of Shea jerseys, the amount of OKC jerseys, when the Lakers come to town, like especially pregame when the fans go early and stuff, like Dallas is a huge fan base in terms of just like in Toronto here. But like a lot of people, even when you go to the Scotiabank Arena, like especially those matchups against those big stars, like there's a lot of visiting fans. I'll just say that much, or at least like Toronto fans who are there to support the away team more than anything else. So I mean, I get that just happens. Like that wasn't happening as much in the We the North era. Obviously, it wasn't happening in their championship. But of course, like people are your time's limited. Again, even if you're a general NBA fan, you turn on a game tonight. Like how many games are on in the league? Like if you weren't a Raptor fan, like you probably tuned into OKC versus Indiana. That was like pretty fun game. OKC ends up winning by 6. Even Miami Orlando. I mean, it can't believe it's the same sport where that one's 89-88. This game obviously was like crazy score. But like you probably tuned into other games. Like even Charlotte and Washington is obviously sloppy, but it was actually quite fun. You know what I mean? So there's an opportunity cost, honestly, with being a Raps fan. So look, obviously we're all here because we're Raps fans. Like I'm never gonna put down ourselves. Like I take pride in this. I've seen, honestly, I haven't seen that many teams worse than their current run, but at the same time, like I'm gonna stick with them regardless. Obviously that's my job too, but like this is also my passion. Like this is obviously how the whole thing started, was just me being super passionate about the Raptors, and that's why I keep doing this too. But yeah, I'm not worried about viewership, but it certainly takes a toll. I'm not gonna lie to you, it takes a toll. Next one from Tala: is Zach Edey already a top 3 Chinese celebrity / personality from Toronto? I mean, so Simu's number 1 from Toronto, at least. I mean, who else? Am I missing other people from Toronto? Alex, and Jerome. I know you guys are in this chat. At least Alex is right now. Maybe drop your own suggestions via the comment link and stuff like that too. But I'm super proud of Zach though. Like Zach is like such a hard worker, and he's a hard worker because of sort of like the body transformation that he's gone through in the last like 3-4 years. Like he's like slimmed down a lot to obviously fit the pace of the NBA game, which is just crazy as you watch tonight. But super hard worker. Obviously came to basketball later on. He he initially resisted the idea of playing basketball, but it's like, dude, you're 7 feet tall, like you have to play basketball. Then he gets super serious with it. Then he becomes super competitive as well. I like that for a big man. He doesn't let other people punk him, which is super important. Like I mean, we watch, for example, like Bargnani here in Toronto for a lot of years. Like honestly, soft big men really bother. Like it's just a fact of basketball. Everyone gets bothered by soft big men because you're the biggest person on the court, and Zach is obviously the biggest person, damn near in the league. It's like him and Wemby are like the outliers. But like you see, like okay, Draymond wants to talk shit about him on a podcast, and then the next time they face up, he's gonna go straight at Draymond and push him around and make him look like a baby. It's like I love that, you know what I mean? And so yeah, obviously I'm rooting super hard for Zach. Like this is a kid who is literally from right here in Toronto. Well, we always celebrate sort of like the talent coming out of Toronto, but we also know that Toronto is like super inaccessible in terms of like actually being able to afford being able to live in Toronto. That's why you see most of Toronto's talent is like RJ from Mississauga, Dylan Brooks from Mississauga, like people from growing outside of the GTA, right? But we're all claiming Toronto because that's what everyone from GTA does. Like, I guess maybe in the States you don't go around saying I'm from Mississauga. You just say Toronto because it's easier. Everyone loves claiming Toronto regardless. But like this is really a kid from literally within the center of the city at Leaside, from Toronto, works super hard, super serious. He's going to be dedicated to the Canada national team program for years to come. He's going to be a big part of that. It's going to make it really easy to root for him. And of course, there's added bonus of he's also Chinese Canadian, which I am as well. But like, yeah, I mean, big shots to Zach Edey, man. Tala asks, is Anders Chinese? Yo, I actually really like Anders. I don't know what happened. Is he still putting out music? But there was like 2 or 3 albums that were like certainly in my Spotify Wrapped from like 2017, 2018, that range. Yeah, shouts to Anders, man. Shout out to NXT, man. Yeah, I hope they're still going. Hello and welcome. This is Alex. Notes: most famous Chinese celeb from Toronto are anyone who got a free Boba Raptors hoodie. You know what? As someone who has given that hoodie Russell Westbrook MVP season level usage, yeah, I mean, there is certainly a list of influencers, and yeah, I mean, yeah, me and Alex are on it. You know what I mean? Yo, no way, man. Alex says, might start calling Will Timulu. All right, Alex, I'm going to see you again, man. I'm going to see you. Oh, Keanu Reeves is partly Asian. Yeah, you know what? Actually, Keanu Reeves is actually, that's a great call by Taco and Nacho Battle Channel. Yeah, yeah, Keanu Reeves is from Toronto, and he went to ESA. That's Tropical School of the Arts. That's pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, Keanu will be the number one, and then Simu number two. And then Zach's solid number three, though. Solid three. Next one for Raptors moments. Raptors moments. I cannot wait for the episode when you do this ejection from Darko. Please, please, please. I can't wait to find all the little details. I can't wait for you to see the Raptors broadcast, but then find the Grizzlies broadcast, all the certain angles, all the lead up to it. Nobody investigates better than Raptors moments. Raptors moments asks, if the Raptors had Everton's defense, where would they rank in the Eastern Conference? Honestly, okay, so for people who don't watch EPL but are NBA fans, the equivalent would be like what the Magic are right now. It's like super banged up Magic, not like Magic with Franz and their healthy roster. Like the banged up Magic that forced teams to play in the 80s. That's Everton right now. Everton has like the funniest manager in the league. You might have seen this meme on the internet where this bald guy with the beard and mustache combo, and the caption is like utter woke nonsense. You know, like that's Sean Dyche. That's the coach of Everton. I think this is the second time around coaching Everton as well. He is notorious for just being like the ultimate defensive park the bus, like best teams in the world go there. You know, like they play Chelsea. Chelsea drops points because they can't score against them. You know, City, they play City into a draw this weekend. You know, like they can't score. I mean, City's on a whole mess on their own. But yeah, like that's sort of grit and grind, old school style. Like, yeah, it's like a what's the Raptors equivalent? Who's that old Raptor coach that made them play that super grinded out style defense? Again, this is all before my time because I started becoming a fan in 2004. So I'm gonna put all the cards on the table. But like, who was it? Okay, this is bothering me. Okay, whatever. There's one Raptor coach that like was making them play like unwatchable basketball for a while. Kevin O'Neill. There we go. Thank you, Alex. Raptors historian. I know he's sick watching this. He's like, how do you not know Kevin O'Neill? Sorry, man. Like, it sounds like a third line winger for the Carolina Hurricanes. More questions? Jing Peng asks, I agree. I can't be too sad. I love the Grizz. That court looked amazing tonight. You know what? The main reason to watch the game tonight, well, actually, honestly, there's a lot of reasons. It was actually an entertaining game. Like, obviously, the Raptors lost and it wasn't close, but like, you know, it was entertaining. Jersey matchup was super, super clean. I know we're kind of like, we're primed for like peak 90s nostalgia. Like, it's that age where like, you know, people like me born in the 90s are like, you know, and starting to enter their 30s. Like, you know, we're the ones who really want to like buy merch and, you know, have the means to buy merch and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And of course, like people from the 80s like Alex, like they're obviously like already in that sort of peak phase where they sort of already get super nostalgic. But like whether it's just nostalgia, like putting that aside, like that, it just looks clean, man. That Grizzlies like jersey, the white one with the trim, with the logo, it's just perfect. Like I honestly think that like that one, the Raptors logo, I honestly like the Raptors logo is really good. Maybe it's because I've seen it so often, but whenever I see that old like throwback Grizzlies, like that's 10 out of 10, like cleanest jerseys. And you saw the Raptors wear the purple against the Grizzlies tonight. Obviously, there used to be a thing called the Naismith Cup, which is pretty hilarious. Between the two Canadian franchises, you know, Vancouver loses the franchise. They're generationally terrible. Like they probably had a lot of these type of games for like 5 seasons straight, and then they got moved to Memphis. But yeah, like this, the jerseys were clean. I think Alex actually went a bit, when you say even viral, this is just like a regular level of virality for Alex. But he did put out a tweet today that said, because the Raptors said the jerseys though, and then Alex quote retweeted and said, the jerseys though should be the slogan for the 2024-2025 Raptors season. And honestly, like it's yeah, I mean it's cutting, but it's true. It is true. But it looked amazing tonight though. Shouts to the Grizzlies, and I would love for them to bring it back, but also I don't know, it does feel kind of weird. Like I would love to hear from fans in Vancouver. Like, do you actually feel an attachment to the Grizzlies? You know, like, or are you mad that like the team got relocated there? Because like I don't know, like I don't think fans in Seattle, for example, are like, I'm now an OKC Thunder fan. Yeah, I feel like you enter the free agency pool more than anything else. But yeah, that's a tough one. Any more questions? Any more questions? No. All right. Well, it was a it was a hilarious game. Again, I would love to know what Darko said after the game. It seems like actually, I'm looking at Savannah Hamilton's timeline here on Twitter, and Sav's got a video from the assistant coach who took over. And so it doesn't seem like Darko actually ultimately took over. It was Pat Delaney who took over. But yeah, I would have loved to seen Darko at the podium to, after this game. Obviously, he will get a chance to speak. He'll be coming back to Toronto. He'll be going to practice. He would have calmed down by then, you would hope. But I would love to hear sort of like what sort of went through his mind. We can always sort of talk about the tanking and all that kind of stuff. We can always poke holes. We've been hard on the team sometimes, and sometimes whatever, we try to lift them up. But like, it just in general, like it's got to be tough. Like, losing is really difficult. Like, it's just, and I do feel for the guys. I really do. And honestly, most of all, I might feel for Darko most of all, honestly, because he's got to answer for this. But of course, I would also love to hear the press conferences too. Like, I don't know why they stopped getting uploaded on YouTube. I know you could still find them if you go to like the Raptors, like NBA.com/Raptors, or like Raptors.com, and then go to the news and video or whatever, and then go there, and then go there, and then. But it's like that's like a very early 2000s level of like finding something on the internet. Like, I would love for it just to be on YouTube like it used to be in the past. I would love for that to be sort of like back as a consistent feature. I'm not totally sure why it sort of went away, but in any case, like, what are we saying, man? We talk about the social team, we talk about the team on the court, we talk about the coach, we talk about management. Like, it's tough, man. It turns out the lesson is like just don't give up 155, because that's a tough way to go out, because Raptors totally crashed out tonight. And I handle the 3 stars before we go. The 3 stars from tonight, I'd give RJ the first star. 27, 9, 10. I thought he really took the initiative to get downhill. Took a nice amount of threes too. I think 5 is a comfortable number for RJ, especially now that he's playing with Scottie. There's more chances for him to sort of catch and shoot for 3. Obviously, he's not a strong pull-up 3-point shooter, but I think the catch and shoots are actually fine for him. It's probably average on that front. Got to the foul line 7 times, made 5. Defensively, again, like, got beat on some back cuts, but honestly, like, everybody on the team got beat on back cuts. It was tough to see. Second star, I'll give the Davion. I know that Scottie obviously had a much more efficient game than Davion, put on more numbers. That's all fine, but Davion actually played a ton of defense in this one, in a game where the Raptors, again, gave up 155. So 6 points, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, forced a bunch of turnovers, played defense with only 1 shoe. Salute to you, Davion. And of course, Scottie get the third star, 26 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists. Probably got off to a slow start. I think him playing at the point right now is not necessarily getting him super engaged in terms of dictating sort of his own scoring. He's not really calling his own number when he plays point, and it doesn't really seem like he has an ability to get set up in the moments to score. When he played small ball center, I thought he was a little bit better on that front, but again, like, it was a frustrating game. Even Scottie, who's pretty good defensively overall, like, he suffered defensively as well. Like, guys are going at him too, so yeah, it's tough all the way around. Your Gerald Henderson Award winner, that's gonna go to honestly, I had a thought to give it to Jalen Wells, because he really shot the ball really well, and he kind of created that first bit of separation in the game in terms of it getting blown out. But you got to give it to Zach, man. Zach, 21 points, 16 rebounds, 9 of them offensive, 2 blocks, plus 29 in 27 minutes. Just an absolute monster. And this is probably his best game as a pro to date. And I'm happy for him, man. I'm going to be rooting for Zach for a very, very long time. And it sucks that it happened against the Raptors, but I also know that he's got to be very happy because his friends and family could be watching this during the holidays, man. Shouts to Zach, man. It's great that Canadians have a great big in the middle too, in the making, because that's sort of what we've been lacking. So Zach, the faster that you can get up to speed and towards your full potential, the better it's going to be for the Canadian program moving forward. So finally, your most important guy. I want to remind you that our most important guy is brought to you by Greta Bar YYZ. That is at 590 King Street West, right here in downtown Toronto. Greta is a great place to go pre-game, post-game, during the game, to watch your favorite live sporting events. And of course, it's not just about the drinks and the food and the atmosphere and the it's also just about the fact that, like, if you ever get bored, it's a barcade. It's a great barcade. You got a lot of games that you can sort of pivot onto. Great place to sort of go for a date. Great place to go for a hangout. I know a lot of like work functions are there, and it's really conveniently located at 590 King Street West. So shouts to Greta, your most important guy tonight. I mean, it's gotta be Darko Rajakovic, man. Like, shouts to Darko. Man, I just know that like this has been building. He's been holding this in, and he always, likes to joke with us that like I think there's like a certain there's a lot of history of like Serbian coaches like really getting in your face. If you look at EuroLeague, for example, some of the most accomplished coaches over there are Serbian, and a lot of them are very famous for like their outbursts and stuff over there. And they're certainly like very, very much like this could have been like a pretty regular thing, but Darko has been more or less like mild mannered, like really friendly, like person to person, super personable, all that kind of stuff. But that there's that layer of fire underneath, and like we've only seen it twice. Last year against the Lakers, this year now against the Grizzlies. But when that fire comes out, it is like it just he snaps. And honestly, more than anything else, just the fight to sort of support your team, support your franchise player, like you have to respect that. And it gave us a great thing to sort of like, not a great thing, but I guess it was like something to sort of recap this game about. So shouts to Darko for getting the most important guy. And of course, lastly, given that this is Boxing Day, I wanted to let you know that, there we go, Alex. The Nation Gear Boxing Day blowout is here, and it's as epic as you would expect. From December 26th to 29th, the entire site is 20% off everything. Yes, everything. Hoodies, tees, hats, you name it. It's all up for grabs at a great steal. And guess what? Nation Gear is the exclusive spot for the official Hello Welcome merch. Snag the Wongstradamus hoodie, rep a Hello Welcome tee, cap it all off with one of our sleek hats. I can't show that to you because my head is like size 8.5. I'm like platform 9 3/4. Shouts to Harry Potter. Like it's a terrible situation. But for everybody else, I think you would look really good in a Hello Welcome hat. Anyway, if you're feeling generous, spend over $200. We'll toss in free shipping. That's right, you're saving on the gear and the delivery. Get all your friends together in a group. Let's all cop some Hello Welcome merch. And of course, there's also merch for the other shows on the Nation Network as well. So don't wait on this. It's the biggest sale of the year. Head over to nationgear.ca right now, and that's nationgear.ca. Gear up, save big, show off your style. And yeah, thank you for everyone for listening. It was a tough game, but of course that's what I know about Raptor fans is we'll be here for the next one and the next one and the next one, and they won't all be this bad. I think for me, honestly, the biggest thing is how do you actually respond, because you can't just play a game like this and just have it be the same the next night, because that would really say a lot about not only the character of the team, but also just the investment of the team. And I know this team has been known for playing hard. Next one will be at home after a couple of days. Come out with something better than this. Come out and fight. Honestly, and snap the losing streak too. Like it just always looks bad when you're losing 9 in a row. You know what I mean? Like the goal at the start of the season, I was like, can this team win one a week? Now it's like, can they win once every 2 weeks? Now it's like, they're close to going another month now without winning a game. Like the last win was like early first week of December. So yeah, I know the schedule's not easy. I know the injuries are not easy, all that kind of stuff. But this is unacceptable, man. It is what it is. So thanks everyone for listening. Make sure you hit like on the stream. I didn't even say that at the start of the show, but just hit like on your way out on the stream if you enjoyed watching this. And of course, we'll have more of Hello and Welcome's content live into your eyeballs, your earballs. Obviously, we got to give Alex a couple of days off here. So just mostly be React Pods, but we will be here after the next game. And of course, we'll bring you some more exclusive interviews. In the meantime, if you haven't already, go check out some of the ones that we've done this season. I thought the episode we did with Savannah and, Kithaka was really, really fun. Jack Armstrong was on the broadcast. That was really, really fun. We did a great episode with Jack. I thought that was, we got to learn a lot more about Jack. Of course, the episodes that we've done with the Championship React podcast series. If you haven't tapped into those and you're like, damn, I can't believe Raps giving me 155. I'll tell you a team that wasn't giving me 155. That was the 2019 Raptors. And we got Danny Green to join us on the program to talk about one of those as well. So tap into the Championship React pods. We got more of those coming as well. But most importantly, hope you spend some time, take some time off. Don't subject yourself to too much Raptor content and just sort of like kick back, relax a little bit. Spend time with your family if you're so lucky to be able to do so. If you have some time off work, I hope you're enjoying your vacations, et cetera, et cetera. Just let's get through this period, and we'll lock in after the next Raptors game. So thanks everyone for listening. This has been the Hello and Welcome podcast, and we'll catch you later this week.